and this came up, and it was very obvious he needed an iconic actor to play such an iconic character. And he's like the only choice I had. So we went to him right away, went to Mickey right away, because I couldn't imagine anyone else in the roles, and I really wanted to lock them in first before I could even start thinking about the rest of the movie. And fortunately, both of them signed on, that same day that they saw the project. And that was the best thing about having that opening test. It was originally just to convince Frank and myself that it would work, but it became such a great tool to go show people and actors what this project was, because if you just showed them the book or the script, it wouldn't be as clear as if they got to see the first few minutes of the movie. Then they could see exactly how the book was going to translate to the screen, exactly what you were talking about the world there was in. They already knew what the tone of the acting was. So that was what was great about that. And when I showed it to Bruce, went over to his house, and well, here comes Bruce, and he can tell us the rest. Hello, Bruce.
Hey, you guys are still here? Yo, what's up?
I was talking about how you came aboard the project.
Honor Rifkin called me, said Robert Rodriguez is in town. He wants to come see you, and he has something he wants to show you. And I go, yeah, okay. And I think it was about 3 minutes. About a minute in, I hit pause, and I said, whatever I see after this, I just want you to know I'm in, and I want to be in this film. And now, having gone through the experience and having gone through, going to Austin and shooting this thing and going through like one of the most crazy filmmaking experiences that I ever had, to look back at that first moment of watching this thing, and it was Josh Hartnett and Marley, right? I could not believe what I was watching. I wanted to know how you did it. I said, how'd you do that? How'd you make the rain? How'd that happen? How did this whole thing happen? I mean, now, to look back at it, it makes us all seem like, yeah, we knew what we were doing, and we knew, yeah, this is going to be this is going to be that. But I was totally baffled by the process and what it was going to look like. And I remember, now cut to the LA premiere, everybody was screaming and yelling at the screen and going, whoa, yeah, wow, woo. And it's just an incredible thing, and so cool to be a part of. Thank you.
We had this project where we're showing this stuff around, what you saw with Josh Hartnett, but for us to be able to go into any other meeting after that and say, oh, and Bruce Willis is already on, and that just suddenly made it's a movie that's happening, and people just jumped on. People always say, how did you get all these actors to come on? Well, it helps when Bruce Willis is the first one, because then people go, oh, this is not pie in the sky. This is like really happening, and it's going now, and the train is rolling, and we got to jump on. And that was so great about it. And Quentin said the same thing. He saw the Josh Hartnett piece the same day I met you, and he said later, wow, then the movie totally lives up to that promise of that first thing I saw, because that was one of the questions he had, is the rest of the movie going to be like this? I said, I can only imagine it being better than this, because so much happens. You got a yellow guy, you got the white blood flying around, you've got some really insane action and great characters, and it's three of his best stories jammed together, so you're bound to like something. And there's so much movie for what you're paying to go in to see. So it was exciting for me to figure out the rest of how this was going to happen. But I think everybody could feel, because we had that little opening piece, that it was something different. And I was going to ask you how it helps to have a movie like Pulp Fiction ahead of this, because I can almost see that you could recognize this is something unique, this is something different, and I've been there before, and I can tell when that thing comes around again, and it doesn't come around that often. And because it seemed like you just signed on so quickly that you probably saw enough or more than enough to convince you that this is going to be something new or different, or what was it?
It was a really similar yes, because I had met Quentin the day before. He got me the script the next day. I read the script, and I called him up and I said, I don't know what you have me in mind for, but I'll do anything in this film. So whatever you want me to do, I'm in. The part that I played in Pulp Fiction, I think, was originally written for a younger guy, and I told him that, and I said, look, I'm a little older, and he says, we'll change that. And it was a groundbreaking film, and that was 10 years ago. It was 1994. Working with Quentin and working with you was a really similar experience. Different format, very different format, but very serious, and yet we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun shooting Sin City, and a lot of fun shooting Pulp. But during the day, everybody, the crew was just taking it really seriously, and you could tell that everybody knew that something magical was happening, that something bigger than what we were actually shooting each day was, what's going to come out of it. Also, in Pulp Fiction, it was the first time I had ever seen one of my films as an audience member. I didn't see Pulp Fiction until I was at the Palais Royale in Cannes, and I hadn't seen the other two stories, and I hadn't seen any of Sin City. I hadn't seen the other two stories until I was at the premiere in LA. And I was screaming and going, when I saw Mickey come on screen, and just great performances by everybody. I mean, Clive Owen's just so tough. And I have to ask you, whose idea was it to do that whip turn and said, a big car, get me a big car now? And just that, it was just such an old school cut that I hadn't seen since probably like the 60s.
You see some things like that in Dusk Till Dawn, whenever like George Clooney would be looking at Quentin, and then the camera would cut to another angle, and then he would turn into that angle, and it makes it a little more powerful when someone just kind of turns to you, and they're suddenly facing you again. You just finished being faced, and then you cut away, and then they come here, they come again. You just almost like can't get away from that person. And if you look at the drawings, Frank had drawn that angle, that second angle where his head was turned away. Clive could see that I was setting up this camera, and I was saying, you're going to turn into it. And I think with each take, he got more and more forceful because he started realizing he's turning into his own close-up there. And so he kept giving it more and more of that little taste of that film noir humor, and it's really cool. And they ended up using it in the trailers.
Really film noir. Frank Miller and I talked at length about film noir, and I've been a fan of film noir for forever. He got that, I got it right away, and that's what all these stories were gritty kind of pulp fiction in that style. And Quentin said the same thing. He said, look, this is a film noir film. Think about the book. Think about that tattered yellow pages, and it just a skanky book that got left in the rain in your car or something. And I can only imagine Frank up in his apartment writing these things, like late at night, and if you ever get a chance, folks, walk up to Frank Miller, introduce yourself, and he's just the coolest guy, and just he's just so, how his mind works, and having him on the set was invaluable. We would do a long take. I would look to Robert, I'd look to Frank, and Frank would go, come on, talk to you, and he would say like a cryptic 4-word sentence to me, and I go, good, got it. And he said, yeah, okay.
Now, what did you think of him as a director? He was a director.
He was absolutely a confident, world-class style director. I mean, he was not afraid to tell you what he thought. He was not afraid to give you notes.
But that's one of the reasons I thought it was important to have him as a co-director and not just there, because he could easily have been there as a producer or a writer. No matter what movie you're on, you just automatically defer to the director. Are you more trained just naturally just to go with what a director's telling you? Did it help to know that he was also a director, so that you could take that anything he said with more weight than if he was just there as the writer or the creator? Did that make a difference? I thought it would, but I was wondering if it did.
Absolutely. A producer is, sometimes they are, but more often than not, actors don't really view them as part of the creative team. Having Frank there as a co-director, there was never any question in my mind that I needed to talk to him. That I needed to talk. I mean, he helped me so much with Hardigan, and had he been a producer or just there kind of watching, it would have been awkward to say, Frank, what do you think about this? From day one, I said, Frank, can you help me with this? And he was right there, and the actors gave so much respect to his writing. One of the really cool things was holding up these comic books and saying, doesn't look like this panel, and we'd make a little adjustment, and now it looks just like this panel. And there's so many scenes in the film that are just like the book. It's an amazing thing.
Led them straight to her.
Style of writing in thirds. There's a couple scenes where one of the thirds would be out, and I would go, what? Where's the? In the book, you have him saying it 3 times, and in the script, it only has 2. And I think we need to go back and just, wow, you got that,
which was unique because we all knew Quentin's voice by now. And you could tell this had its own voice, and we had to find what that voice was. So all the actors, I made sure. I didn't give them the script to read. I wanted them just to read out of the book. We'd have a script on set that was the equivalent of what an edit of the movie might be, where maybe we do truncate something. but I knew that if an actor came to the set and said, well, I missed something from the book, then those things we would draw back in, because then you wouldn't quite know what's important to keep. It was kind of hard to know. But whenever an actor said, no, what happened to that line? Because we'd look at it, yeah, that's the one we'll keep in then. Then that helped everyone kind of work towards what should we keep and what stuff should we take more license with to trim it down.
We did a lot of things that normally on another film I think are considered taboos. Shooting with actors that aren't there, shooting with actors that are shooting with stand-in, second team, sometimes Robert, and everybody just accepted that after the first day. Not to mention the fact that I think I worked 10 days on this film, which was the equivalent of 5 weeks of shooting on a regular film, and it's the fastest I'd ever gone. And I thought for sure I would be coming back down and reshooting something, because we're just going so fast, and it was all green. And I remember asking you, we're on the dock, and I said, oh, well, what's going to be back there? He said, well, there'll be a little bit of the city, and it's the entire city. Entire city's drawn in. I go,
that's really all it needed to be, because the characters are what's foreground. You have the doctor already, so you really only needed a few lines to suggest. But what happened is the effects companies, because I split up 3 effects companies with each story, and I wouldn't show each other work to each house, so that each house wanted to make the best job. And they were always asking me, I'm the guy in charge of the effects. I would say, oh yeah, that other house is doing a really great job. And so they would deliver more than they needed to, because they wanted the best story. So this friendly competition took over, and you ended up with, for what we paid, these amazing visuals that didn't need it to that. I would tell them, well, if you guys start running out of money, just put black back there. And of course, they'd have to they all. Yeah. And that was fun to kill. As far as working with actors that aren't there, like a Brittany Murphy, who was going to be there just for a day, but she had to be in all 3 stories. Some actors she'd get to work with, like Clive Owen, and I would pick it that way. Her biggest scene is with Clive and Benicio, so that's the day we'd shoot. And then those little pickup shots where we just need her tie her into the other stories, we shot you with a stand-in, and it was up to the actor, because a lot of times actors work, even if the other actor's there, sometimes they're behind the camera and the actor's having to look at an X and all they hear is the voice, and they're still able to give, the performance. So I thought, well, as long as I have his voice there, and they can go back and look at his footage. The HD is so sharp, it's as if Bruce is there right then, as if we just shot it. It feels like, it could easily be abused, but, if it's something like that, where it's a smaller bit, then, and it's the only way to get 2 great actors together at the same time, then it's better to do that than to not cast that actor because they're not going to be available. Now it's going to be you'd never get all these actors together at once to be in this one scene. So in the old days, you would have said, well, okay, we can't have that actor, he's not available.
When you would tell people that, as an example, Mickey Rourke never worked with Rutger Hauer, right? And you shot those scenes. Oh, you shot the scenes with Elijah and Mickey. All the actors got an incredible education in throw away everything you thought about. We're not here. Actors had to throw away all their preconceptions about the rules of filmmaking. You gotta have the other actor off camera. You gotta know what came before. You have to know what things are gonna look like. You have to know what the props were. The thing that we kept talking about was that it was like Playhouse 90. It was like you were shooting a film live with a doc, 3 actors, and I think a gun, and that was it. And you had to really trust Robert and know that, okay, we're in your hands now, and all you gotta do is act. All you gotta do is turn it, do your work. After a day, I never even thought about it. I just said, okay, whatever it is what it is. When I worked with Jessica on the couch, it was a couch, a coffee table, and my coat. That was it. It allowed you to focus so much as an actor.
On one day, and that's what's great about shooting on the green screen, is that we could always return to a location. I just shoot on location, and we just shot at the Chrysler Building, but now we're in another city. Oh man, I really would love to go back and get this shot. Well, here you can be anywhere. It's like, you need to pick up a shot in the snow. Okay, magic, we're in the snow again, because we're adding that in later. And there's a part where we shot in the bar with you and Jessica. You came to me the next day, and we're already off that set. We had shot that on a set. And let me look at the take again. Let me see what kind of close-up Jessica did that intercuts with my takes. I didn't feel like we got it, or I'm going to see that again. And you saw it, and you went, you know what, I'm going to try something else. Can we just shoot me here on the green screen? You're already into it. Hey, just shoot me here on the green screen. You can put me there on the stage. Yeah, you're right. I can go get the background. I can just shoot it off the wall. Yeah, let me get the close-up. What do you want to do? And you go, hey, put on that Jeff Beck song, and just roll the camera. And so you listen to the Jeff Beck song for a couple minutes. I just let the camera roll. And when you're ready, you walked in and then you did that line where, keep me from killing myself. Right. The letters. So the green screen lets you go revisit any little moment you want at any time when the inspiration hits you, because that's the worst thing feeling is, I could have done something else and I missed it. You don't have that limitation anymore. So you can always go back and punch something in, and of course it was much, much better. As you'd had the night to think about it, you came back and you nailed it, and it fits in seamlessly. It doesn't feel like a process shot.
On 35mm film, it is so expensive to go back. To go back anywhere, to go back to another location, because you've been there and you can't take 250 people back, even if it's 10 blocks away. Here, the crew was we were all there every day. There was a language to Sin City, how you worked, how the green screen process worked, that I think everybody got in a really short amount of time. Green screen is a weird thing. It's a weird process where, normally you're standing against one flat green screen. We were in a green box in a big green stage. So after a day, you just accepted everything. You just said, okay, well, and no one knew what it was going to look like. No one knew what it was going to be. And when I saw it, I was just astonished. It was just so amazing. It was far beyond anything I could ever imagine. Never cut. It's just amazing. The process of reloading film, of cutting, get everybody ready. Okay, rolling, speed. You guys never cut.
That's just one of those things that I just noticed. The more people you have, the longer things are going to take. We don't have a big schedule where we have to have the movie out at a certain time. When we surprise the studio when I say, give me less people, give me less money, give me less time. That's the only way you're going to make it happen, because you're going to run a marathon. If you gain 500 pounds, you're never going to last. You've got to strip down and be really lean. And the funniest thing, you just say, hey guys, I'll be ready whenever you need me. Just give me a 5-minute notice. I'm going to go back to my trailer. You go, 5 minutes as you're walking out. And you go, what? You go, we're going to be ready in less than 5 minutes. And then you go, okay, well, just give me 5 minutes. And you go and you come back. And as soon as you're walking on set, I was like, roll camera. We'd roll before we even got, you go, oh, of course. When aren't we rolling? And you're like, are you guys kidding? It's like, you never know. You might just walk in and say something that's gold, and you never know. It's tape. It's cheap. Let it roll. You got someone like you. You got somebody. You're on a green screen. It's all usable now. So why not? There's several shots. I might have already pointed them out, but with there's like one on Clive Owen where he was just going over his line in the car, and I was still moving my camera around. People were still wandering around, and he was just saying the line to himself, and he gave a great real reading of it, and that I didn't really get in any other take. And I thought, I'm just going to use that one. And I looked at the take, and it had a little bit of a bump in it with my camera, because I was just sitting there. I'll just make it look like the car just started up, then it started to move, and it'll feel very real. And we got to use just off the, he's on the mic, but he was just saying it to himself, and it was just so smooth that was a take I ended up using. So I'm always rolling. You guys come on, you nail it right away, and we'd be moving on to the next shot. And you thought, at the end of that, or in the middle of that, you said, man, where were you guys on Tears of the Sun? This is the way to do it, man. You get 65 setups a day, you don't screw around, man, you're always rolling. It just felt so vital and so charged.
And I don't think any of the actors ever knew when you were going in for, tight shots, medium shots. And I go, what about here? What about like a really extreme close-up? You go, I got that. I got like 10 of them. I go, when? You see this little red button right here? Have you talked about that? About the zoom switch.
They call me Zoom.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You know what it felt like? It felt like almost like some cinema renaissance. Because Quentin was there as a director, Frank's there, all these different actors, and we got our own little stage. We're away from Hollywood, so it really is just about the creativity. And Francis Ford Coppola had come down to my stages and looked around, and he went, this was my dream for Zoetrope. When he had started Zoetrope Studios, is that he was always using high-end, new technology to kind of create these things and get a troupe of actors together and sort of do this very experimental cinema. And it's like, wow, we couldn't get more experimental than Sin City, and that's what it felt like. Unbelievable talent coming in to make this crazy new movie.
really experimental. And everybody showed up and accepted the process. As an example, hanging out of the car, shooting at Nick, is one of the most exciting scenes of my stuff. And it looks like we're going 100 miles an hour and the winds are blowing and everything. And we're just on the same green set that we shot everything else on. The acceptance level was, I think, almost immediate. Did anybody say, well, I can't do it? I don't know what's going on.
No, that's the thing. People say, well, how can I don't understand how they can do it? You go, but they're actors. They create their own reality every day, no matter how big the set is. They have to create the fact that that's real. And that's what they do. And doesn't matter Mickey Rourke, no one that you would think might go, this isn't what I'm used to, and I can't get a feel for it. People who are real method, like Mick, loved it. He loved the isolation of it. He loved the concentration of it. He loved the fact that it was that pure and that theatrical in the way that he was isolated from everything, and he was able to conjure it all up. And it's all, I think, part of the actor's craft to just be able to create a reality out of things that are not real, things that are fabricated. I mean, our movies are so stripped down. You just see me behind the camera. I'm operating. Everyone else is kind of off in the black. Where on a lot of sets you have so many people around. Actors are still able to act like that. So I think this was easier in some ways because it is so stripped down and isolated. It seemed like they just always got it in a very few amount of takes.
Yeah, it was like doing theater.
I just want to point out Nick Stahl here did such a terrific job as Yellow Bastard. Originally, I went to another actor, someone I worked with before, Steve Buscemi, to play the Yellow Bastard when he was the yellow guy. I couldn't think of anyone else who would want to play this role because it was so despicable. And so I thought I'd have to go to someone that I already knew and that would trust me, because you just read the book, you would go, okay, ask the character I don't want to play. Originally, I cast Nick Stahl to play the younger version, Junior, before he turned into this yellow bastard. Steve Buscemi was excited because I sent him the opening sequence with Josh and Marley. He checked it out and he thought, oh, cool, and read the book, and I went, I can't quite get my head around this character. And I told him, I'm sorry, I know I sent it to you. I should have at least explained why I sent it to you. You're probably wondering, why would I think of you to play this horrible character? Because I've worked with Steve before. He's a sweet guy, a great father, and just a really nice guy, but just a terrific actor. And that's really why I wanted him to do it. And it's something about the voice, too. It says, do you recognize my voice? So when he said, yeah, I don't know if I could do this. I showed it to my wife, and even she's like, I don't know if you want to play that right now in your life. And I thought, God, what else could I get? Because and so then I talked to Nick Stahl, and Steve even said, who's playing the younger? And I said Nick Stahl, and he goes, well, I think Nick could do it. That's what Steve told me. And I said, yeah, you know what? I just saw him at a party the other night. He looked completely different. He was kind of scruffy, and let me ask him, because he is going to be under so much makeup that he probably could do it. Let me talk to him. So I talked to Nick and told him to work on a voice and to leave me some messages on my phone in that voice so I could see if it was working. And sure enough, I forgot that I had ever told him that. Got some strange messages from the Yellow Bastard, and he would say, come on over, and then he would hang up. And I said, yeah, that's working. So Nick did it, and gets to do this great transformation from Junior to the Yellow Bastard with great makeup effects by K&B and Greg McIntyre. Thank you, Bruce, for joining us. And
all right, buddy. God bless you.
And special thanks to Quentin. Also, I think he's already gone. Oh no, here he is.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching Sin City with the commentary track. Talk to you later.
And there he goes, and here I go. Thank you for joining us, and see you on the next one. Bye.